Let's see in it all. You're good to go.
Awesome, great. So, first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. We have,
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
roll call. We consider all the commissioners to be present. Commissioner Roy was just on the remote, and he found out that we're meeting in person, so he's on the way over. We should expect to see him very shortly. Item number 4, accept and approve the minutes with a waiver of the reading. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes for April 15th.
I'll second it. Move the second to approve the minutes. All those in favor?
Chair, point of order, you're not going to open it up for discussion.
Certainly.
I don't have anything to say. Point of order.
It was worth it. Thank you for that discussion. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 5-1. Item 5, review and approve all bills, part-time deputies payroll. We have
Chair, I move to approve payroll warrants 2030, 2031, 2032, 2033, and corrections warrants 109, 3J, 1972J, 3016J, and 3017J.
been moved by Commissioner Kelly to review and approve all bills, part-time employees, deputy. We have a second.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 5-1. Reports. This is standard report. Item A, Maine County Commissioners Association.
I have nothing to report right now.
Reports. Central Maine, Central Western Maine Workforce Board.
In light of the situation with COVID-19, the workforce board has been quite busy, working on means to train Mainers who, have lost their jobs due to the current situation. Thus bringing about the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, landmark legislation designed to strengthen and improve our nation's public workforce system, made more critical in light of the unemployment crisis brought about by COVID-19, including those people with significant barriers to employment, preparing them to obtain high-quality jobs through free training, including such opportunities as medical coding, pharmacy technicians, phlebotomy, administrative professionals, and many, many more. Those who are interested, those community members who are interested, should visit www.cwmdb.org and look under the workforce tab. There you'll find all the information you need in order to pursue that further and contact the required individuals.
Thank you, Commissioner. So it sounds like people are taking advantage of the program.
Yes, and there are plenty of opportunities to be had. So anyone who is adversely affected by the current situation and needs to pursue a different avenue as far as their career is concerned, there are options. So I encourage all people to anyone interested to check out the website. Central Maine, Western Maine workforce.
Very good. Questions for Commissioner Kelly? Hearing none, we'll proceed to item C, facility and IT. Hey,
Hi.
we just saw you on TV.
Yeah.
We did not, I didn't schedule him because we have him doing another job tonight, but we'll catch up with
We're
him.
glad you found the council and important for him to do.
Yes,
Thanks.
Report of the administrator.
just very quickly, just a few things that's been going on. The roofing above us, that project should be done this week. The sewer project has been finished, broken pipe, not budgeted, but that had to be done. Department heads are giving me their updated capital plans and working on budgets. So that's progressing. The new IT director is going through the hiring process, having a background check, physical, etc. He was part of that today. Looking to have him on board June 1st. The new EMA office manager and planner should be hired soon to replace Joan Bouchard, who retired. The Sheriff's Department, Corrections, Communications, they're doing employee evaluations, of which I always review each one. And so we started that. We're going to begin gearing up for normal public service again. And while there is continued chaos, there are some places that are starting to partially open at different times this month. Others on June 1st. I'm looking forward to us being to having a grand reopening on June 1st, if not before. But that's what we're looking toward at this point.
Very good. Any questions for the administrator? Hearing none, before we proceed to section 7, I'd like to remind everyone that this week is Correctional Officers Week. Hey.
No, I know that.
All right, this week is Correctional Officers Week, so we have some correctional officers here today, in fact, and the Androscoggin Board of County Commissioners would like to thank you people for everything you do. It's often thankless. A lot of other people get the spotlight, but we know how much hard work you do, and how much you mean to the community, so we'd like to thank you for that. You can pass that along.
Thank you, we appreciate
I
it.
do appreciate it, thank you, and I will pass that along.
We appreciate that. So the next section is comments from the public. We can open that up. And I'd like to say that we'll have a presentation of a couple of resolutions. And the public will have an opportunity to respond after those as well. After the board has some discussion, we're going to open it back up to the public again. And we'll come back and have the board vote. Meanwhile, we can take some comments now, but the item, and let me say that because we do have some people waiting remote, the chair tends to ask the board to take item A to B out of order and clear that before item A is the discussion on the policy. Commissioner Woodruff? No. So keep in mind, you will have another opportunity to discuss the resolution regarding the sun. So people, how does this work, Dave? People signal you that they want to talk, or they just talk?
Both. So if you just ask them to unmute their mic,
Yeah.
hopefully we can do, there's only 20 people online.
All right.
So with 20 people, it could be done pretty modestly, just by you asking them to unmute it. Go with that. Otherwise, they can, there's a way to lift the thumb up if they go into their options. If they do the thumb up, I can unmute them individually.
Okay. Can I hear what you just said?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Do you mind just repeating that, just for the sake of the audience?
Sure. Because there's only about 20 people online watching right now. If people unmute their mic, they should be able to see each other who's unmuted, and they should hopefully self-regulate and ask questions.
very good. So the public may not comment on any matter, and we will be coming back to the policy on regarding restarting the economy after that as well. So those who wish to, if you know how to signal, tech guy, Cody, they do so, otherwise you can unmute your mic and hopefully only one person does that at a time.
Is there a drop down menu? Because I know sometimes if you don't drag the cursor around.
Yes, I've been-
It might be hard for them to.
Oh, for them, I've been checking my,
You know, and I know.
sure. I've been checking my side. There hasn't been any pop-ups, but WGME just popped back in again. So maybe they may. I see before you guys get it.
Anybody taking for now?
No one's requested, nobody unmuted the mics.
Very well, we will come back to a public comment section in a moment. Next item is item 8, new business. If there's no objection, we will take the item letter B out of order before letter A. Hearing no objection. Item A, policy for contacting, I'm sorry, letter B, resolution on regarding restarting the economy for us. The chair say that Commissioners Kelly and Krishna and I discussed part of this order. We changed the language regarding to the senior members of the commission's feelings about this. We wanted to make it clear that we were not suggesting that any senior member of the community is taking the risks that they don't wish to. So we changed that language in the last whereas to new language, which you should all have at the end of your packets. So if there's no objection, we'll be using that to discuss. And can amend it if you wish later on. So for the purpose of us starting the discussion, the chair would be happy to entertain a motion to pass this resolution.
So,
Mr. Kelly moves to pass the resolution,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Larry. So this resolution is intended to join in the chorus of people that believe that the state is being harmed by the shutdown economy. It outlines several points that have been picked up from research and media over the last couple of weeks, suggesting reasons why it may be timely to begin to open up the economy forthwith. And it's felt that the damage that has been done by nullifying our vibrant economy may be something that costs us many months and years into the future. We appreciate what the federal government, President Trump and Governor Mills have been doing, what their intent is. We feel that there are different opinions from different walks of life, especially perhaps people that actually have jobs, need those jobs, need to go back to work. There's been some delays in the federal and state possibly in checks being received, a lot of people are feeling the pain. But the biggest reason I consider that we cannot sustain a shutdown economy for much longer without it being something that becomes so problematic that we may or may not be able to recover from. So I'll put that out to begin with, and anyone else want to discuss or ask questions? Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. I have some great concerns about this resolution. Number one is adequate public notice. This resolution wasn't seen, I don't think, by the public until an email that you sent yesterday to a number of news organizations and email addresses from city councilors and other people. So I don't think the public has had adequate public notice to see this, to be able to even weigh in on it. And I appreciate that if there's anybody who is online here to watch us, but also we've curtailed public comment to some extent with the public not being able to be here. So in itself, I think big decisions should be allowed extra time to allow the public to weigh in. We haven't asked our sheriff for his opinion on this. We haven't asked our staff for their opinions on this. We haven't asked our resources. We don't have doctors. I don't think we're in a position to be making statements like this. So adequate public notice was not given out. So I would encourage this commission not to vote on it today. I'm not talking about the content of it. I'm talking about our responsibility to notify the public and allow them to be able to weigh in on it. I received 2 communications, one from the city council in Lewiston and one from the city council in Auburn, who happened to be on your email list with serious concerns about due process and the content of it. They didn't have time to give much of a response about it because they had just seen it yesterday. So that's not the way we should be running ourselves. And we haven't talked about this before. And so, and secondly, beyond the due process, I got great concerns about the content of it. Some of it just isn't true. It just isn't true. And so I don't understand why we would, one, it's not necessary to have some of these things in here to make a resolution about opening up the economy, but it further damages us to have things that just aren't true. And I don't know if it shows that there's just a fundamental misunderstanding about the scientific method or about testing or what. And I'm not saying we shouldn't open up the economy again. I'm just saying this document includes things that aren't true. Like, for example, this thing about Wisconsin primary election voters, only 52 having contacted it. We don't know that. They don't know that. They didn't test 400,000 people, every person to walk through there. They don't know that. I know, when we're trying to make a headline or something, maybe that's the way we put it, but that's not the truth. And it's not something that we should be putting here. And frankly, I think it's embarrassing that we have, that this is being done in the way that it is, and that we're not trying to build a coalition with ourselves to come up with good public policy. And instead, this is being written in isolation and then put out to the public in this way without due process or without adequate public notice. And some of it's hyperbole, like the statement. I'm not. You said you had got rid of it. Oh yeah, okay, this one. So the members of the Anshaga County Board of Commissioners who are voting yes on this resolution understand that we are at higher risk than some seniors, and that if we should be a casualty of the virus, let it be known that we're willing to die for our country and state if necessary. I mean, it's just, there's such hyperbole and misinformation and a fundamental misunderstanding of what's going on that I have great concerns about it. And so do the public. And if they had more time, they would probably weigh in on it too. What I do know is that the public is supportive of the plan. The plan that the state of Maine has put out. And I think we're going to see that when the legislature has asked the governor to bring stakeholders in leaders of businesses to talk about the plan, that we will see some deviations of it for the best. But this doesn't talk about the nuances or anything like that, or the science. It just has misinformation. And I don't think damaging the credibility of the CDC with baseless accusations is in our best interest. I don't think that's in the public's best interest or our own. And this is just embarrassing to have sent out to the public at this time. Meanwhile, our offices are closed. How hypocritical are we to say that we should open up the state for business, and yet at the same time, we have our offices closed? It doesn't make sense. You can't have one without the other. We are a government, and we are essential business. Our only statutory responsibility here for the county government is to take care of our inmates, the health of our inmates. But yet, during these meetings, I don't really hear many questions about our inmates, and I don't see anything in this resolution about our inmates. I don't see anything in this resolution about our first responders that Anshaga County has, because those conversations are happening in the administrative level, but they're not happening here, and I don't really hear much of a concern about that. And there's a lot to be said about what's going on there. But that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is this document full of misinformation and hyperbole, blasted out to the media and everybody before we get a chance to even talk about it, that it is frankly embarrassing, and it's not good public policy. And I just, and we talk, and in it talks about testing. Well, we have no role, I mean, we really don't have a role in testing. We could facilitate it, but right now, we're using a loan to pay our daily activities. So you know, what role do we have in it? We don't have a role in telling the state government what to do. What we do, that's not our role. Our role is facilities for the courts. Our role is the jail. Our role is the sheriff's department. We're not, in this instance, you know, and furthermore, I have concern about calling it a economic crisis. It's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. And it waters down the powers that the federal government has, and it waters down the powers that the governor has, because when they say it's a civil emergency or a national state of emergency, those things mean something. They're backed up by law. They mean something. This doesn't mean anything. And it's great that we can make a resolution and say that we need to support our seniors. I mean, I think that's a given. I don't know why we do this. And we're talking about trying to compare ourselves to South Dakota. We're not South Dakota. We are a global state. I work in 36 towns, and I was talking to an individual yesterday who runs a summer camp for children. They bring in thousands of children from out of state and hundreds of adults from out of state, from areas that have been hit by the pandemic really hard. And yeah, maybe we could, you know, in this document, it says that the youth are really unaffected by it, but it's way bigger than that. We shouldn't be making these statements in there. So even if the governor opens up the state for business, those things aren't gonna happen. They're not gonna change their mind and say, oh yeah, let's bring in thousands of students from out of state, from Boston, Connecticut, and New York to come to Maine. They're not gonna do that. So I don't see it really being any meaningful outcome coming of this resolution and us passing. It just boggles my mind to see this, partially because in the 3 years, or almost 4 years that I've been here, we've tried to make sure that we don't rush things, that the public that if they want to engage with us, they can. And yet, you know, then there's this, which gets emailed out yesterday to the public and apparently to all the media organizations, and we want to vote on it today without public comment. I mean, that's not the way government's supposed to be. And this isn't what a resolution is supposed to be. I mean, look, even just the first thing, okay, so 53 people died. Okay, I mean, are we saying that's insignificant? We talk about that there are hospital beds that are empty, like we have to have a responsibility to fill them. Like that was one of the most disturbing parts about this, is that it talks about empty hospital beds and then hospitals are closing, which in Maine, there's not even much truth to that in context of this. And somehow it's our responsibility to open up the economy and fill those hospital beds again. It's sick. And so I say we shouldn't vote on this because, you know, maybe next week after we, you know, change some things and got our 2 weeks and we've had public comment, because that's the way things are supposed to be. But we're not supposed to, this is not right. And it's meaningless and we're gonna get nothing of it. And if, you know, people here individually feel like the governor should change her plan, then come up with some details. This isn't detail. Opening up the economy isn't, those aren't details. Tens of thousands of Mainers went back to work this week, and it's not exactly where we want it to be right now, but it's a balance of health and safety. And the state has doctors and health policy experts to help them, guide them to the right decision. And they're not outliers with their decision. This plan that the state has come up with, they're not outliers with this plan. This is a very similar plan. They're in lockstep and key with dozens of other states. And frankly, this is dangerous. And I am sympathetic to the idea that maybe it's been treated as more serious than it is. I'm sympathetic to that, but we have no role in telling the state to open up the business, especially when we have no resources of our own to make good decisions, and clearly, we don't, I don't know. Anyway, I just gotta say, we shouldn't be voting on this, and if we do want to vote on a resolution like this, we should vote on it in 2 weeks at our next meeting, so the public can weigh in on it, so that people in Auburn can weigh in on it, Lewiston. I had someone who got infected the other day, less than a quarter mile from my house, a community transfer. And so, it's real. I'm not saying there shouldn't be deviations to the governor's plan, but that's for people to take up with the executive branch. It's not our role. And additionally, we are looking for money from the state. They fund a significant portion of our jail and are been coordinating with our emergency management. And yet, we want to put a target on our back by saying that we're willing to die for our country, or that there are hospital beds that need to be filled. I think I've probably said it enough, but I want to hope that the commission will consider at least not voting on this week, maybe sharpening our pencil, erasing some of it, and coming up with something that's real public policy and a nuanced change to the plan, and not this thing about how we're gonna test more, but yet, we don't have money, we're not part of it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'd like to pose a question to the administrator. Did we send out notices on this meeting or the agenda on Friday?
Yes.
So the notification process is the same process that we have for every commission meeting, according to the administrator, and I made the deadline and we'll set this stuff up.
May I clarify, Chair?
Sure.
If you go to our website right now, it doesn't say we have a meeting today. If you go to the page about our minutes, with the minutes and the agenda, I looked right before I came here, it says the last meeting that I talked about is like April 15th. If you dig farther, you do find the PDF with our schedule, but it doesn't say there's a meeting. But also, this document, it's one thing to send out the agenda, but this document, this resolution, was not sent out to the public except for yesterday in an email that you sent. So they have not had an opportunity to weigh in. So adequate public notice has not been given. And even if maybe it has, maybe if 1 day is enough, or 5 days are enough, it's not enough because this is significant. And I think there's bigger implications than this, because it's embarrassing to be passing a resolution to say that we're willing to die and that there are empty hospital beds. I mean, and we should, yeah. So,
Thank you. Just, I'll get you in just a second if you could defer just a moment.
Yes.
The part of the resolution that refers to being willing to die is an old cliche from the idea of being willing to die for your country. And that's a valid idea, and it used to be part of what made the greatest generation great. And Commissioner Kushner and myself discussed this, us being the senior members on the commission. And we changed that language in your updated one, just to you have it or not?
I'm reading the one that was handed out to me today.
You just moved this one, so you can read that if you like or not. It now reads that we expect no senior to put themselves at risk. And indeed, the seniors and any high-risk group need to be protected and served. The two senior members of the Androscoggin Board of Commissioners, who are voting yes on this resolution, if we do, understand that we are at a higher risk than some citizens, and that if we become a casualty of the virus, let it be known that we were willing to die for our country and stay if necessary. We're not asking anyone else to take any risk beyond which they wish to. And by the way, that's along the line with the ideas that South Dakota, which you mocked, but I'll address in a second, and the entire country of Sweden did not close down their countries. They had a voluntary request of the public. They had a higher respect for the public than other states did. And they said, will you please do these things? We never gave the public the chance to show how capable they are of managing their own affairs. We treated them like little children and said, you must stay in for this totally overblown virus, which every day they're backing off the statistics, we can talk about that more in a second, but I wanted to ask I want to ask,
It is very possible that we didn't get this until after we'd already sent out the rest of
the
the.
new version,
Mr.
the new version. We sent out a version.
Pardon?
You sent out this with the announcement Friday, an earlier version.
That, if you saw it, I'll take your word for it. I'm not
I
100%
submitted
sure.
it, I don't know, I assume it went out.
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair,
because
it
I got, we
went
got the
out.
notice from Sandy.
Mr. Chair, it went out. It
Okay.
went out in
I'm
earlier.
almost-
It went out.
I want to ask the administrator if the county offices are closed down because the state set standards for us to do so, or did we arbitrarily decide to close the county office?
The county office is closed down in coordination with what the state had asked and the fact that the courts have closed their, all of the court issues and so on, so.
Thank you, Mr. I have no objection to opening the county back up. I think Commissioner Larry has wants to say something.
Mr. Chair, I would point out from an email from Commissioner Medora back in 5/3/19, he stated, "I know that we are exceeding the intent of the law for public meeting notice." I would also point out that looking back on a motion that I vehemently opposed back in early December or mid-December, when we scheduled, instead of allowing the whoever will be the prospective newly elected chair to set the schedule for the meetings, those were pushed through and scheduled back in December. And Commissioner Medora made special point to make sure that Larry, Mr. Post, pardon, would go forth and send those out to the towns right away. There was a real emphasis to that. So I would just point out that they know that there's a meeting, it's been sent out to the towns. He himself said that we are exceeding public notice already in opposition to some of the things I have pushed for public notice on making sure that we send out the agendas and the information to the town. So I would just like to point that out. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'd like to say that this board last year or the year before, for instance, passed a resolution supporting the Central Maine Power Corridor. And then this board came back in this year and we repealed the letter. So I wouldn't mind at all meeting again in 2 weeks and rehashing this whole thing. And perhaps this board, if it passes this resolution today, could amend it or repeal it. But what I do not want to do is stall for 2 more weeks when the country's at stake. The stakes are very, very high. Lots of people, the reasons they can't seem to explain in a logical way, want to keep everything shut down. And I want to move this forward today so that we make a difference over the next couple of weeks. Having people talk about, isn't it time to open up? That's my purpose and Commissioner.
Sure, may I? Adequate public notice about a topic isn't simply saying that you're gonna have a meeting. That's not adequate public notice. It is saying what the topic is and sending the item at hand. And so that, your quote, which was very timely, I don't know how you found that so fast, but that was way out of context because it was specific to that moment at hand. And the moment I'm talking about is that the public didn't see this resolution until yesterday. And we haven't had adequate time for people to weigh in. I know in less than 24 hours, I've had 4 people voice their opposition and great concern of it to me. I mean, that's unprecedented for this because our role as Androscoggin County Commissioners, #1 is the safety of the inmates at our jail. And not to be making resolutions talking about and having things that aren't true in them. I mean, we can vote on it or whatever, but I don't think we should, but some of these things just aren't factually correct. And it's embarrassing because all you have to do is look it up or just to know something about testing or just a scientific method in general. So again, if we did pass it, say we asked the governor to say that we're open for business, business won't continue as usual. There's no good outcome of this, even if the governor did what she would never do, even if we could blackmail her, she's not going to change her plan. She made the plan based off of evidence. She based the plan with her doctors. with public policy experts, buck stepping feet with dozens of other states. And so this is painful, and I have a lot of sympathy, but we're stepping it forward. And just to clarify on us being closed or open, at our last meeting, we all talked about closing the building. And there was a deference to the administrator who decided, with working with the other departments in the state, decided to close the building to the public, which was no outlier in the state or in the other offices. So, we have a choice whether we want to open up our building or not. But to have, and what we should do also, in part of adequate public notice, is getting our staff to weigh in on it too. Do they want it to be open? Because that matters. Our staff matters, their opinion matters, and the inmates matter. And I don't see that as part of the conversation, because that is their statutory obligation. And making statements about this, it's just not in our purview. And I think it will damage us. I think it's embarrassing. And so, but thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Larry.
Mr. Chair, I would point out, there are some factual inaccuracies being brought up. We have been talking about the jail, not to brag about myself, but I brought up, hey, should we maybe increase the air exchanges per hour to make sure that we're keeping the air healthier for the we also did not swear an oath to the inmates. We swore an oath to the Constitution when we were sworn in as commissioner, newly elected. So, and we are not agents of the state. We work with the staff, but we represent our constituents, the Manitoba. And they are frustrated. They have very limited options for voice. Protests are scorned if they exercise their First Amendment rights to protest or risk their freedoms and their finances to go to church, which are guaranteed in the U.S. Constitution, but are annulled by our governor's orders. We have these freedoms. People are frustrated and fed up with overreach. And the blackmail is not us blackmailing the governor. We have been blackmailed as a nation because we've turned over our freedoms, frankly, without a whimper. And we are speaking out for our constituents that are frustrated, are fed up, and want something to change. And we're doing it in the right process, in the peaceful process, and we're doing it procedurally. And we do, as commissioners, have a responsibility to represent our constituents and stand up for them. And this is one of the first of the few times I've ever seen a concern raised by one person about public notice and timing. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly.
My concern lies in the fact that businesses, family businesses, local businesses within our districts, within my district as well, being outlying areas of Auburn, Poland, and Mechanical, are being shuttered on a daily basis. Livelihoods are being destroyed. Those affected need a voice as well. In Augusta, and perhaps moving on to Washington, but we can start with Augusta. I want to be a voice for those people who are losing everything. And like I said, the list grows on a daily basis. What can we do to help those struggle?
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. I don't think there were any hearings held in Augusta on whether or not to close down. Regarding the 53 deaths in Maine, the Bangor Daily News says that half of those, this is as of 3 days ago, we had an article, occurred in the nursing homes. Those people are already effectively under house arrest. And by the way, that's exactly the group who should be protected. We protect the elderly, protect the people in the nursing homes. I help carry I drive meals to the elderly at Parker Arms with Women's Dairy. That's the kind of things we should be doing, protecting that group, not quarantining the healthy. And as for the questioning of the 52 out of 400,000 Wisconsin primary election voters who contacted the virus and none got sick, that's quite a number. It's been reported. In fact, when I was interviewed by WGN today, he brought that up. I didn't bring it up. That you may dispute that, and maybe they did not test 400,000 people, but I find the report that says there were more of those voters that were infected. And the excuse at the time of closing down the election was which I say should never be closed down. You should never close any election down, ever, for any reason. The election goes on. If it's a 10-foot snowstorm, people go vote. The ones who really want to go vote can go vote. People can vote absentee. People come, two parties will come get your absentee ballot for you. So that was used as an excuse to close it down, and they had it anyway, and it turned out just fine. Another example of what never needed to happen. And I would like to see a voluntary system that respects the public. South Dakota has 2 largest cities in South Dakota are twice as large as our 2 largest cities. But the point is, it's not a little hick state with tiny villages. They have large metropolitan areas where the virus can certainly be carried. That governor respected their people, just like Sweden respected its people, and the World Health Organization of all outfits, the World Health Organization, you should have seen the guy fumbling around when he was handing the script to the executive director, as to what he had to say. He said, the example we should be following is Sweden. And then he says, well, and then he's trying to make an excuse. I was like, well, that's because they have a different relationship with the public, and they had it. I said, yeah, you didn't shut it down. They said, will you please go do this? And the Republic responded. That's respect from the government towards the people. We'd like to bring some of that here and urging that the conditions and the recommendations become voluntary. And by the way, if that becomes voluntary, what would change as well? Walmart's still going to have you wear a mask, and they should, especially if they want to. Some businesses will open. They'll do social distancing. Everything will be picked back up and running. I believe that, I'm not challenging anybody's motives because it's a hard situation that we're in. But I believe that people make decisions and they go and make mistakes and then realize maybe this is a big mistake, especially when more and more people are saying we're getting killed here. So it's hard to back off those decisions. I think this will encourage movement maybe here in Maine, maybe around the state elsewhere. Further comments? Commissioner Roy.
I do have, although not as upset as other commissioners, I do have some problems with this resolution. Like some of the assertions, I don't know that they're true. Like, you know, the 52, I don't know that that's true. I'm not saying that it's false. I just don't know that it's true. There's other assertions in here that are irrelevant, like the 1915 flu pandemic doesn't seem to be relevant to this particular. Another one that's untrue is every job is essential in a functioning economy. At least I don't think that that's true. I mean, porn star is not a very essential job, right? In a functioning economy. I mean, it's nice to have, but it's not essential.
Good work, we can get it, right?
So, you know, I mean, I have some problems with this. I also do have a problem with that it wasn't like a more collaborative effort. So it doesn't seem to me to be really a proclamation from me personally, because I didn't really contribute to it. Now, personally, I agree that the economy should open up. I didn't even think it should close down personally. I think that, you know, regardless of how many deaths there are, well, that's the risk that we all take in life. We do the best we can, but we don't just stop our lives and cower in fear, you know, all collectively. Personally, that's just me. Other people, they want to do that. That's fine. However, I can't agree to this the way it's written. Also, I don't like the fact that we don't really have any. It's not really our place. But it's not our place. I do agree that as commissioners and as representatives of our constituents, that we do provide a voice, and that it also does put political pressure on the governor, not really on the president. I'm sure he doesn't care what we say. But I can't. Yeah, I really can't agree to this proclamation. I don't disagree with the overarching sentiment that not really worth it. I personally don't really care that 53 people died. I really don't. You know, there's a lot of people that die every single day. It's nice. It's not nice. It's life.
Right.
You know, we try to avoid it, but that's 53 people. I don't care, right? I don't want it to be my friends or my family. I certainly don't want it to be the friends and family of my friends and family. Other than that, I don't really care. That's just me. Other people, they really do care about other people. That's great. But I really can't vote for this. I would abstain from it, actually, from the vote, just because, like I said, I don't really agree with this proclamation, but I don't disagree with the overarching sense.
Let me just say, Commissioner, thank you, Commissioner, that the resolutions are put together like this and blah, 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 blah. And then there's one section where the directive is, where there's a request or a claim or whatever. And that's all that will be remembered, not the
No.
blah, 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 right or wrong. And I can back up pretty much all this stuff.
No, I don't.
But I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. So the directive is, one, the availability of testing continues to be expanded. Protection of the elderly continue to be practiced, delivering their meals. In other words, we want to protect the elderly. But then the force of law be removed from the shutdown. And we ask the governor and the president to move forthwith on that. That is what the request is. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. No one's going to say, hey, what?
Yeah, I get it. Still, it seems to me, I'm a big fan of making point statements or ineffectual statements. I do it all the time, but yeah, I don't know. I would have rather had it be more of a collaborative.
Yeah, I apologize on that.
That's fine,
I was up
that's
against the time and I wanted to get.
No, I get it. And I understand, and I certainly understand your concern and your concern for urgency. Because as a business owner myself, I have a concern for urgency as well. But I don't know, I'm just uncomfortable with the way it is.
Can I ask one more thing before I?
Of course, Mr. Chair, you have the what you said.
How we try to, but just so you know, the 1918 pandemic I referred to only because that was a very nasty virus. And people would get some symptoms at 10 o'clock in the morning, and they'd be dead by like 8 o'clock in the evening, some of them. And it also attacked the youth. Not so much the youth, I think, but the 25 to 35-year-olds. It's like, it was a terrible thing. Worldwide, it killed 3% of the people. Even back then, we had a little medical knowledge and stuff, which is a lot. And in the United States, it killed 675,000 people. That was when we had a population of 100 million. So that would translate into about 2.5 million if that virus was here this year in this population. But they didn't shut down the economy. They shut down Philadelphia, which got really bad, and
San Francisco.
San Francisco, I thought, okay, maybe they didn't, and then I know Phoenix was. But by the time we got to Detroit, for instance, whatever reason, it wasn't a big problem there. So, but the overall economy wasn't damaged. It picked right up. One more thing I'd like to say. I am so tired of people saying we can never return to normal. This can never be the same again. What the hell are they talking about? After this pandemic, which is a real pandemic, they all went back to normal. So why do people say we can't go back to normal? Based on what? If you want to change some more things, add some more precautions, because you learned something, that's fine. But I don't buy that part. You can't ever go back to normal. I intend to go back to normal.
I do want to add just one more thing that would add to your arguments for, or your assertions for, did you read the report where there was a study on the 50 states in which would be the most vulnerable and least able to least not as able to quickly recover from this recession/depression? Maine is the #1 state, given our demographics, given our reliance on tourism, right? Yeah. Right. So we're the least likely to recover economically in any speed time. It doesn't mean we won't. It's just we're likely to have a harder time.
And I'd love to see the beaches open right away. I saw one report from Europe said almost nobody's catching this thing outdoors. And one last thing, and we'll maybe take some public, just how much we know, I hold the public up with it. But I was out to one of the smaller grocery stores a couple days ago. And there was a young woman working at every little high school, lacrosse showed up. And I said, oh, cool, but lacrosse is just loud. I used to, until the thing came along. And I said, oh, that's a bunch of BS. She said, tell me about it. And she says, this is my last year. And so that senior won't get to go back and bond with his girlfriends in that special moment of being 17, 18, because we're gonna head totally up our butts. There's not a reason that anybody can give me in this room we would shut down the lacrosse game. Okay, if you don't want the public to come, fine. There's no reason why these kids that are not getting the virus can't go out and play their lacrosse. They have their mask on and things. That's crap. That's crap. And that's the kind of thing that brings me here to say somebody has to do something, because the bureaucrats don't know what they're doing. And they absolutely don't know what they're doing business-wise. So one columnist said, you could inject the coronavirus intravenously into these people, because there's just no evidence that this virus is affecting them, except for every once in a while someone's a case. So that's the kind of stuff I'm hoping we can somehow move that along. And I think the city of Auburn should open up the lacrosse games and any other sports events that are going on. Keep the damn schools closed, like the kids, but at least open up the sports events. Let's we open up some public for a little bit, please. Maestro.
All right. So I can unmute them all.
A yellow one. No, they're not.
Before I ask the public.
Hey, we're now inviting the public to weigh in.
Oh, they're not hot. Like, they're okay. You can look in the sun. So you need
What we got here?
So what is it? They don't know they're unmuted and they're talking at will, freely.
Okay, well,
Mr. Chair, would you let me know?
I guess there's some confusion. I think more than one person might be unmuted, so maybe one person can speak. I vote for the baby to speak.
Anyone who's listening right now, we are soliciting comments from the public for anyone who's willing or wanting to comment on the resolution. We have unmuted everybody, and so if you're interested in commenting, then please chime in.
Most people remuted themselves.
We're waiting to see if anyone unmutes themselves and would like to.
So we've got a couple individuals. I'll try to put up on that screen.
Hello, this is Beth Bell. I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
That's great.
Yes.
Hey,
Oh, sorry. I just want to state that I'm in agreement with this resolution, and I would like to see it passed, and I'd like to see quick action taken on it. And I'm disappointed in the ongoing repetitive moaning and judging this statement as being incorrect. I think that is what is embarrassing. That is all.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Seriously, why are you hiding a notepad?
I would just like to say that the comments about my coughing, I have asthma, so I cough all the time. So I thank you for your concern, but I'm pretty darn sure that I don't.
Oh, we thought it was COVID.
Next comment from the public. Do we hear any more comments from the public?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I just wanted to be able to say that I wish I would have learned a little bit earlier about this resolution. I agree with the commissioner on that. However, we must move forward with opening up, at least at the state, if not Androscoggin County, at least, and then open up the state. That's all I really want to say. I have one question. Is this something that you will have to petition the governor to do?
You quite hear the whole question. Could you repeat that?
You really are.
We couldn't hear the question. Could you repeat the question? We think the question was, do we have the authority to do this? This resolution, if it passes, will not have the force of law. It is a lobbying resolution to the federal and state government, beseeching them, strongly requesting them to open up the economy. So the answer is yes, we have the authority to pass this resolution. It doesn't have the force of law. Forcing anyone to do anything.
The question was, would you have to ask the governor to enforce the resolution?
Well, the answer is yes, meaning that the governor does not have to enforce the resolution. We are lobbying her, trying to create agreement among the public politic, and hope that the governor will hear our comments and speed things up.
Sure. I just would like to clarify that.
It's my eyeball. No, it ain't hit your eyeball. Look, they don't hit your ass.
What?
I just wanted to clarify that counties in the state do not have the authority to
They
pass
don't hit your ass.
any ordinance or anything like that. We don't have home rule. This is just a statement.
That it is. Additional comments from the public?
There's one that's popped up. Let me scroll up.
We're coming for you.
There's an Elizabeth Dill on the screen.
Elizabeth Dell, are you there?
No, she typed in.
Oh, she typed it. Can you read that?
I'm in a busy room and can't verbally comment, but I support entreating the governor to open up the state. I think it's important that voices be heard on this. Almost everyone I talk to is hurting and wants the state open.
And that was Elizabeth Dill?
Elizabeth Dill.
Elizabeth Dill writes a strong comment supporting the resolution and asking the governor to open up. Thank you, Liz.
Next one.
That's it.
Down here.
Hello?
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 Hello? We're waiting for any comments.
After we do 2, 4, 5, mom, hit me down here.
Says you had a good question.
Our mom.
He liked it.
Is anyone else interested in speaking out for or against this resolution or asking changes to it? And encourage you to reach out, please, either by typing in or by clicking on mute.
Well, I'm not really sure how this works.
It's
You're doing
working.
good. You're doing
Speak on.
good.
We hear you.
Let us know what you have to say.
Can you hear me?
We can
Yes,
hear
sir.
Yep.
Yeah, this is my first time honing in on your meeting here. And I did not get a copy of this resolution, so this is new to me. What I do have a question and then I have a statement. One is, what are you doing as the county commissioners to show the state that you are willing to put in effect certain safeguards and open up your departments?
At this time, we consider that the state is leaning on us not to open up the county. If that changes, our very talented administrator and for that matter, the entire board, I'm sure will jump on that. We have the very talented sheriff here as well. We jump on that opportunity to implement changes to loosen up the bosses.
Well, I think you need to do it now and show that you're ready to do it. To the people here, I mean, great, we have to sign online to have our registration done, pay our taxes, things like that. You need to start looking towards not paying salaries for people to sit home. And as long as you can do that safely, you know, just because you're a state employee or a county employee, I mean, I think this is a waste of taxpayers' money, to tell you the truth.
Just to clarify, our staff.
Question coming at you.
Our staff continues to work and they are getting paid, but they are also working. Deeds are getting processed, inmates are coming into the jail, people's names are getting changed. So
What about the courts? What about the court?
We are not in
What about
charge
the
of the
judge?
courts, we just
The
have
DA?
the room.
The secretaries, the assistant DAs, what are they doing?
They start working.
Those are state departments. We don't actually have much interaction with them.
Oh, that's not your job?
Wait a minute.
Court?
It's more entertaining now. She's back.
Of course, Commissioner Woodrow, that's it.
Yes, the district attorney is divided into 3 counties, and in Chicago County, we do have staff that is under the discretion of the county, and he would be.
Yeah, I just looked at your budget. You pay a lot of money for a district attorney, an assistant district attorney, and a secretary and computers. I see a lot of money in the budget for that department. So
You're working.
they're working from home.
A lot of them, yes.
Should be.
Presently, yes.
Yes.
What? You know what? We're not going to talk about around it, not on no TV.
He's gonna leave alone.
Hello, this is Mike Dubois. Can I comment for a minute?
Yes, please.
Please do, Mike.
Hey, all right, I'm the, I just wanted to share something. I'm the judge of probate, and I can speak directly to the probate court. We are functioning at this point in time. The staff is presently in the building taking filings through electronic means, which is what we do. We are also holding court sessions. We are doing so by using the same technology that's being applied at this meeting tonight. We're doing through Zoom. It is a little bit of a challenge for us, but we are doing whatever it is we can to keep everything moving forward and making sure we serve the public as best that we can under the circumstances. The only thing that we're not able to do because the actual building is closed is actually see in-person events. And so some things we cannot do at this point, but we're doing everything else that we can electronically, and we're making the best of the situation. So as far as we're concerned, the court's functioning, people are showing up, they're doing what they're being paid to do, and they are continuing to engage in whatever needs to be done from an electronic standpoint. That's the best we can do at this point.
Thank you, Your Honor. Commissioner Larry Henson.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to answer the question from the lady before Judge Dubois had asked what we had considered or what we've been doing. Back when this was starting to look like we were going to need to shut the county down, it had been suggested by a commissioner, and then another commissioner came up with an idea that I saw texted to me. And I'd be able to give credit if that were the case, but I don't want to name names. But the idea of using the plexiglass dividers back before we really saw these going on at the town. So there have been some different ideas. I'd like to see more motion forward on that so that we could both reduce the risk of transmission with people that are seeing multiple members of the public, while at the same time still enabling the safe face-to-face interaction with the public. And I agree with your concerns about making sure that we're not having people sit at home and just be paid to sit at home without working at the same time. Thank you for commenting, by the way.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further comments from the public?
Yeah, good evening. This is Matt Leonard. Can you hear me?
Hey, Matt, how are you?
I'm doing well. So it's Matt Leonard, resident of Auburn. And I want to speak very briefly in support of a resolution to open up Maine. I think you've seen recently an article from the New York Times which stipulated that 40% of small businesses across this country will close in the coming weeks if the current course that we're on doesn't change. And I'm very often aware that 97% of Maine businesses are actually small businesses, including my own. So I think it's imperative that we demonstrate support to the governor that there's an interest in people maintaining their livelihoods, and that if we're going to move Maine forward, we need to open up businesses and allow them to practice not only their livelihoods, but allow them to make determinations to keep themselves safe and the people that they serve safe.
Excellently. Excellent.
Thank you, Mr. Leonard.
He says to mute our line because.
Any further questions? Any further comments?
Doreen Bauman from Leeds.
From Leeds?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
I'd like to speak in support of the resolution as it sits. I think the governor needs to understand that without the small businesses, that there will be no state budget. You can keep paying people. However, when there's no money and the money is gone and people's businesses have dried up and they've moved, that there will be no Maine.
Thank you very much. Further comment?
Hi. Yes, I'm listening to the.
Yes, we're ready for you.
Maybe try again. Yep. Bye-bye.
Mr. Chair,
Is that the?
could we, maybe just, Mr. Rick, do you mind just repeating how to log on if somebody's muted, they're not sure?
So they can do a couple different things. One option would be to raise their hand and I can unmute them. There's a spot they can like put a thumbs up and I can unmute them remotely, or they can just unmute their own selves on the bottom under the microphone.
Too bad with them unmuting themselves.
Why does it keep coming?
Yeah.
You
Maybe
can
just
either
let them
unmute
know,
yourself
Dave, that they can.
or
unmute
raise your
themselves
hand, and then I can unmute you.
So you can unmute yourselves, everybody, if you still want to talk and then speak and then.
If you have any more questions, I want to hear you.
Yes,
You gotta do something about it.
yes, Ed Gray. You hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, I'm in full support of opening up the state. I mean, I have a handicapped granddaughter that can't even do physical therapy, which is ridiculous. I mean, if you open up the state and people don't want to go to the businesses that open, that will be their choice. But this is in a country that's free, so it'd be nice to go back to that constitution that we so hardly put together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Chairman.
Hello, yes, sir.
Yes, this is Randall Greenwood, and I'd just like to say thank you for putting the resolution forward to have a discussion tonight. I won't rehash what's already been said, but I am in support of the resolution that is presented.
Thank you very much, Mr. Greenwood. Thank you very much for checking back in.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Roy, would like to say something.
I was just wondering if there's anybody in the public that is against us passing the resolution.
Commissioner Roy asked if there's anyone that would like to speak against the resolution at this time.
Kind of quiet, isn't it? No, they're asking if anybody
I
wants.
want to say regarding the last speaker that in the directive part of the resolution, section 3 says that we recommend that the force of law be removed from shutdown and lockdown orders and instead have those practices immediately become voluntary, neither forcing any business to remain closed nor requiring any to be open. I thought that was along the lines of what you addressed. Further comments? From the public.
I got one person that raised their hand. Sergey from an iPad.
Sergey from
Yeah.
iPad, you there?
I'm here.
You had your.
You have a comment?
Oh, I already did before.
Oh, yeah, we got you. We got you, sorry.
And then we have Andrea from Maine.
Andrea from Maine, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to comment?
Yep, I just wanted to mention that I feel that the governor is treating all of Maine as one entity, whereas each county should be held separately, where we're not like some of the other counties. And we should open up.
Very good, thank you. What county are you from? Are you from Androscoggin or where are you from?
Yes, I live in Lewiston.
Lewiston, thank you very much. Someone from Bethel told me that 4 restaurants have closed, announced that they're never going to open back up again up in that county. Commissioner Roy.
I do want to make the comment that, the governor and the president are in a pretty tight spot here. I mean, it's not something that I envy. You have a problem where you have to balance essentially what others can say, well, we're going to choose one side or the other. And they, particularly Janet Mills, is in a position where she has to balance the safety and well-being of the citizens of the state, along with trying to maintain the economy, or at least do the best job she can. I can't imagine that anybody on this commission thinks that the intent of Janet Mills or President Trump in shutting down the economy is to do long-term or even short-term harm. It's really to do what is best for the state, given the situation on that we see before us.
Very good points, Commissioner. Thank you. Any more public comment out there?
Yes, I wish the governor would treat us as adults and not as children. We can take care of ourselves. We're pretty darn good at it.
Good point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Larry, did you have something?
Sure. I'll try to keep this brief. We mentioned about as you mentioned, it is a challenge to deal with these decisions. We face them on a much smaller scale as county commissioners than what the governor or the president of the United States are dealing with. But when you are dealing with a very difficult, confusing, and a lose-lose situation, I can speak for myself, and it was good advice for everybody. You pray, you look at the Bible, and you look at the Constitution, and you follow your core principles and your values, and then you're able to protect everybody else's core principles, their freedoms, and their values. And I have not seen that, with all due respect to the governor, in her choosing to set churches as non-essential, where we have people that back in late March, my father-in-law passed away. We couldn't even go to church the next day because we beat the 10-person limit that Governor Mills put together. But I could have gone on that same day to a casino and gambled away my family savings because she only voluntarily asked the casinos to close. That is a lack of transparency and a lack of priorities. And our freedoms are guaranteed by the Constitution, both the state and the federal Constitution, on freedom of worship in the state and freedom of religion in the U.S. Constitution. And those have been trampled on time and time again. And she's shown no real effort at all to stand up for people of faith and to allow them to use common sense and be careful. I can go to Walmart, I can get my dog's nails groomed now, but I cannot go to church legally. That is a violation of our free speech, and it's a violation of our Constitution, and they're real concern. So whether there's motives or not, there's a lack of due diligence and care. And she should, as well as President Trump, make sure that they follow the Constitution and protect the Constitution or the constitutions that they swore an oath to protect and uphold. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further comments from the public?
There's a Dick raised his hand.
Dick, are you out there? Do you want to make a comment?
Hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, very good. I was wondering if it will be discussed, if possibly just opening up Androscoggin County, because I know some of the coastal and the northern counties have very few cases. I know our case load is rising. I understand that, but has that been discussed to open up just Androscoggin County?
What I'd like to see is the governor say, turn it back over to the counties and the cities and say, go ahead and open up your offices and your stores as you like, and then it becomes a local political matter, and then the local people can put pressure on their local city councils and the local county commissioners, and it'll probably result in a resolution of what they want to happen. This particular one asks for the state to be opened up. One form that could happen is just have it be voluntary, and she could say, let each city and the county manage their own affairs as far as this virus is, and open it up. So I think you're on something.
Okay, and I just want to make a point that I believe, although I am not against Governor Mills' policy of staging openings, but the way the more I look at it and says, why wait a month? I think it's rather flimsy in and of itself. I think a two-week stage of opening businesses, I think would have worked out. If we find out then that we have the caseload, the virus infections rise, then if you have to shut it down again, fine. But I think it would have been better at 2 weeks as opposed to 1 month.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly.
During today's CDC press conference, I noted that Janet Mills she intends to open or begin a commission regarding the gradual opening of Maine's economy. Their first report won't be until mid-July. Final report won't be until December. That's not enough. That's not soon enough. We need to, address this now because people are losing their livelihoods right now. As I said earlier, the list of businesses that are having to shut their doors permanently is growing on a daily basis. What can we do to help those people, those families who are losing everything to put everything into these businesses. It's a big deal.
Thank you, Commissioner Keller. Commissioner Medora.
Thank you, Chair. I wish I had brought a copy of the governor's plan, or that we could have had someone talk about it, because I feel like maybe there's some misconceptions about it. Beginning of this month, a lot of places had the opportunity to open. And I was actually, given some of people's concerns, I was actually quite surprised to see in the plan that things like summer camps could open in July, and these sorts of things that bring in lots of people and I have a lot of contact. And so, to me, I drove to the coast today, and there were, most of the businesses I went by were open. And it is painful, but there are the businesses that right now can't be open for in-person service, or things such as restaurants or tattoo parlors. You can still go buy guns, you can still go get takeout, you can go to Martin's, you can still, you can't do most retail, but there are a lot of things that are open. So I see that in the plan this week, it appears that tens of thousands of people most likely went back to work because those businesses did have an opportunity to open. And I wish we could have talked about the plan in a more substantive way. But I also just want to say that I wish that the public had an opportunity to see the actual resolution, because a lot of the people who have joined us, and I appreciate that, haven't seen the resolution. So the question really isn't us saying, or asking the governor to open up the state. It's making all sorts of statements about things that we're not qualified to say. And it's also discrediting the United States Center for Disease Control. That's a dangerous thing, and I cannot stand behind that. So the question is, the question ahead of us isn't necessarily asking the governor to open up the state. It's saying that we have an economic emergency, which doesn't mean anything coming from us, and statements just aren't true, and that we're not qualified to say, because we haven't, we don't have the resources to validate some of these. So, and I also think, I wish the public had seen this. I wish more people had an opportunity to see it. Really, it's not on our website. It wasn't sent out to too far and wide. It was just emailed yesterday to the public. So people really haven't seen this resolution that we're talking about. But it sounds like some people understand that one point about it. But there's like 3 pages of this thing, and so it's more than just asking the governor to open up the state. I just want to clarify, we have absolutely no authority to tell businesses that they can't open. We have no authority to make rules in Androscoggin County. Our offices are currently closed, and so if we're to write this or pass this, I think it's really hypocritical, because we talked about keeping our offices closed and chose to do that. So we have the opportunity to open them up. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further questions from the public, further comments?
You should probably read some of the chat.
Yeah. Yeah, can anyone read that? I'm too far away.
Sure. Let me scroll up.
Can you scroll? You guys want to alternate?
Yeah, Commissioners Roy and Larry can do the official scroll.
Yeah, where, down farther, please, because we haven't got to everybody. There's one from, Ms. Bell, and then there's another farther down. Farther down, please.
I'm working on it.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, there's no need to read anything that's insulting.
Yes, of course. Actually, can you scroll the other end? I'm sorry. My apologies.
Thanks, Beth Bell.
She also stated she did have a copy of the resolution, so some of them, they are able to read it.
Okay. Want to go to the top?
I'm trying to start to make sure we're actually reading people.
That's the top.
Okay.
One comment in response to Commissioner Larry's comment about the shutdown. Really, putting stomping on people's freedoms of assembly and religion. I certainly understand that argument, but really, you know, if you think that you have a constitutional argument, then you should just protest or not protest, but actually do what you think you have a constitutional right to do, and then allow it to go through the courts and have that constitutional argument weighed and decided. Because I think, you know, we really don't have any, I don't know, but I assume we don't have any laws or case law that speaks to this particular type of situation. It would be interesting to see how the courts would think about it after the fact, or even while we're in the middle of it. You get what I'm saying? Like,
No,
you say, well, you tell us I can't go to church, but I have a constitutional right, so I'm gonna go to church. And if you arrest me, well, then we're gonna have a lawsuit.
Yeah. No, and a point taken. However, the case law would be the U.S. Constitution and the United States Constitution. That's where we start at, and that's case law. After that is we have seen courts interpret the Constitution incorrectly, how they treated African Americans back before the Civil War, which was blatantly wrong. But also to your point, the what is interesting is that I find this is you bring up an excellent point is, okay, if you think it's unconstitutional, go ahead and violate it, risk your job, risk your freedom, risk your reputation. What I found interesting is that when regardless of politics here, but just when President Trump, since this is the current issues of the day, issues an order to make sure that maybe we're throwing people out that are not here legally. Instantly, overnight, there's an injunction. Now, nobody actually has been thrown out, so they don't get even a chance to violate the law, but somehow they're protected constitutionally by a Supreme Court or a circuit court injunction almost instantly, overnight, I would almost dare say. And yet, for American citizens that are concerned about their freedoms, they are told to violate, risk your family's health, welfare, prosperity, and freedoms, and go ahead and violate it and find out what happens. We should, that's about like saying, go ahead and let someone violate the law and deal with the consequences and find out if it's right or not, when this should be discussed. That's why we have courts, that's why we have legislatures that are closed right now. I could call my legislature, what's the point at this point? They're not gonna do anything. So this needs to be addressed, and yes, it is unconstitutional, and there is a great concern, and it's not just me. Many of the people, almost all of them, are very gravely concerned about what's going on. So it's our opportunity as commissioners to speak out, whether this carries weight or not. At least we're standing up and making our voice heard and respecting our constituents. So thank you.
Thank you. The chair appreciates the statements of both Commissioner Roy and Larry. I think we'll close down the public comment now, unless someone yells out real quick.
I have public comment. This is Laurel Libby.
Yep, we're with you, Laurel.
All right. Hi. I wanted to say that I find that the current guidelines as handed out by the governor are, they don't seem to have a good rhyme or reason to the current plan. Why can new car dealerships be open but not used cars? And it's because of that disconnect and the unclear parameters, and that's one reason that I support this resolution. Maine people are known for our independence, our hard work ethic, our ingenuity, and our common sense in Maine. So there's no reason that the same folks that were smart enough to start successful businesses can't follow common sense guidelines and open now. And I have to say, I feel that any business opening now would feel very motivated to maintain good precautions and use common sense, because with the contact tracing that is being done, if there's an outbreak that's related to a business, that will be found out very quickly, and businesses aren't going to want to be shut down. So I do support the resolution.
Very good points, Ms. Libby. Thank you. So we're going to close down public comment. Last call. Okay, thank you very much for your input. That was very, very valuable. So, question before us is passage of the resolution. Are there any further comments by the board?
Just one further comment. If it weren't for all these whereas, and it was just the proclamation and maybe with a slight change of the wording at the bottom, I would be in favor of it. I really, the things that really just, are the whereas statements, a lot, not all of them, but some of them.
What is the statement at the bottom that you would change to make you happy?
Instead of, we proclaim an economic emergency, it's a little long. I would rather have it say, we recognize that the shutdown is causing extreme economic devastation for the state.
You call that an emergency?
Yeah, all right, I guess so. Also, but I wouldn't beseech the president because he doesn't really have anything to do with it. It's really the governor's actions, so I would just focus on the governor.
Well, okay, I prefer not to narrow it down on the government.
I get you,
Not
I get
meant to be partisan, I just wanted to go.
Yeah.
But is there anything we could change that would cause you to vote for it if we just kept the last part?
Well, like I said, get rid of all the whereas statements, but I know that that's not what happens.
Well, wait, I'm not attached to the whereas, they don't mean anything.
Right, well, that's why I don't like them. I'm like, well, a lot of them, as.
That states the case, but we don't need that. But
Some
what
of them
I
are,
would-
I agree with some of them are hyperbole, some of the assertions I don't know if they're true, some I don't think they're relevant. So that's why I'm like, well, I don't really like this statement. But if it were just the proclamation, actually, I could even be fine with just the proclamation as written.
Which is starting at therefore.
At therefore,
someone remember that. We require of Commissioner Larry. Commissioner Larry, the statement that we request the force of law be removed from shutdown and lockdown orders, and instead have those practices immediately become voluntary rather, covers First Amendment and churches and everything else because they're part of the lockdown order. Could you be happy if we just went with, from therefore we the assembled members of the Angus County Board forward and then pass this? I personally don't need to wear it.
Mr. Chair, I understand and I certainly respect the concerns of Commissioner Roy. However, these are our reasons why, just like when we look at the declaration, and I realize this is not the declaration of the events, but it is important to, as it states, let candid facts be our facts can be given to a candid world. They didn't just call off and do something, they made something clear and justify their actions. I feel it's important for us to do so. And in respect of religious liberty, which I'm deeply concerned about, I can send my kids to daycare, but I can't send them to church. They can't be a nursery at church. I'm very concerned about the freedoms. I respect your concerns, Commissioner Roy. I would not be able to support that just at that level due to the importance of our religious liberties as well.
Yeah, language on the religious liberties isn't in the directive.
No, I recognize that, but it is in the whereas beforehand. So that would be, if we were to add that, I could consider that, Mr. Chair.
That's
Other than the
Constitutional and First Amendment rights. So, whereas the law converts means it is the right to First Amendment rights to free exercise of religion, speech, assembly, and petition. If that was included in the recommendation, I would back that, Mr. Chair.
Let me inquire of Commissioner Roy. On section 3 at the end of requiring you to open, and that Maine citizens' First Amendment rights to free exercise of religion, speech, and assembly, and petition be reserved.
If we were to get rid of all of the whereas except for the one Commissioner Larry cites, the whereas the lockdown burden, and instead put whereas we believe the lockdown burden Americans, the Maine citizens.
So have that as the one whereas we believe.
Whereas we believe the lockdown burdens Maine citizens' First Amendment rights of free exercise of religion, speech, assembly, and petition, the assembly members. If that were your sole reason for it, because a lot of this obviously has a political tint to it. Whereas I think everybody, most people anyway, are in agreement that our protected freedoms are a serious reason to petition the government to change its course, right? And then the rest is all just additional reasons that we can all agree or disagree on those. I could vote for that.
What if we had the, whereas the lockdown, First Amendment rights, et cetera, and the lockdown is, whatever wording you said about putting a burden on the economy.
I'm just adding we believe.
What's that?
I think the rest of it is as printed, just
Good,
adding
good.
we believe after whereas.
Oh, okay. Is that all right?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to maybe consider kind of nulling that. Instead, just sticking to the, from the therefore down, the force will not be removed from shutdown and lockdown orders, and instead have those practices immediately become voluntary, either forcing any businesses, churches or groups.
There you go. That's the
Okay.
right.
And then at the end, instead of to remain closed or requiring any to be open, just comma, in order to protect First Amendment rights. At the end of that, if that's acceptable. I make that motion as a change.
Let me get it down here.
All right, I'm sorry.
Either forcing any business or church.
Or groups.
Or business, church, or groups.
Business, churches, or groups.
Churches or-
Businesses, churches, or groups.
To remain closed or requiring any to be open.
In order to protect First Amendment rights. If that makes it simple and makes it a little less concerning for those.
I mean, this is an example of one we like to have these proclamations a bit more collaborative.
Mr. Chair.
I apologize for that.
In that section, after, mentioning businesses, is there a way to include the list of businesses affected?
I recommend against it, because it's adding, that's adding some of this stuff on, which it's good points, and I don't think anyone would debate it. But why not just get the meat of it that satisfies most of the board?
I just, wanted to put, a personal spin on it. So I had closed it in charge.
So is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, make that motion to dispense with the whereas with all due respect to the chair's work in the past. To start from where the therefore in the new document, it was a single page document in our folder that we have right here. And that the only changes would be the force of law be removed from shutdown and lockdown orders, and instead have those practices immediately become voluntary, either forcing any businesses, which is a change, churches or groups to remain closed, nor requiring any to be open, in order to protect First Amendment rights.
So we would, the amendment would be take everything after, therefore we did some of members, include that with the change in language that Commissioner O'Malley just described.
And then, Mr. Chair, if the commission would permit me, I would say churches, religious groups or groups, just to include everybody. Only because I am a born again Christian, but I respect the other religions.
Churches and religious groups?
Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Chair. I apologize for the.
Churches and religious or other groups?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Because there are other groups that may not fall under that category.
Or other groups. Okay, so now the section 3 of the resolution reads, force of law recommends the force of law be removed from shutdown and lockdown orders, and instead have those practices immediately become voluntary, neither forcing any businesses, churches, and religious groups or other groups to remain closed, nor requiring any to be open, in order to protect First Amendment rights. And then the rest of it is the same.
That would still require a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All those in favor of amending the resolution with those changes? A discussion, please.
I'm fine. I just-
Okay.
For procedures.
All those in favor of accepting the amendment, please raise your hand. All those opposed, motion passes 5 to 61 The motion before us now is passage of the resolution as amended. Any discussion on that, Chair?
Chair, I just want to make one point. It's not about whether we're going to tell the governor that we should open up the state or not. It is about the way that we should be running a government. And if we don't have our meeting on the website, and if we don't have this document on the website, and that you personally crafted an email in isolation and sent it to the people that you thought you should see it yesterday, including apparently the Androscoggin County Commissioners, Androscoggin County GOP Committee, right? I'm seeing this email here printed out. Then that's not really the way we should be doing it. We should be able to, as a commission, talk about it. The public should be aware of it for some time so that they have the ability to talk about it. And I think in other circumstances, people in this commission have been upset that things have been rushed or that there wasn't adequate time to see it. And that seems to be exactly what's happening now. And now we're changing the resolution again. And I just don't know what saying the ability of testing continues to be expanded. We have no role in that.
We are picking it up, you know.
So, anyway, we have not given adequate public notice.
Thank you, Commissioner. The chair would have no objection to putting this back on an agenda for the next meeting in the form of someone requesting that it be appealed and have a better notification.
That's not what adequate public notice means, Mr. Chair.
We ready for the vote? All those in favor of passing the resolution, please raise your hands. All those opposed, motion passes 6-1. The chair thanks the commission for a very difficult discussion. We have couple more items on the agenda. One is policy for training for contacting an attorney. I would require the first let me defer, and then we also have an executive session on schedule today, which we should do today. So I'm just inquiring if Commissioner Larry thinks that because we have the greatest interest in the policy for contacting an attorney, we think we should postpone table that to next meeting. Well, at least table it and perhaps we'll take it up after the.
It's not only up to me, I appreciate you asking, Mr. Chair, but I'd be willing to postpone after the next meeting if that's the will of the commission. Just out of respect for the whatever discussions need to take place with executive session.
I'm okay with that. Okay with that. Okay,
I
so
make a
with
motion to table, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Second. So the motion's been made and second table the policy for contact attorney. All in favor? All opposed? It's unanimous. Discussion items. Proceeding into discussion items. Other discussion items.
Well, while we're talking, I have heard recently that Androscoggin County has contacted with the local college to house our not necessarily first responders, but any of our first responders and other county personnel that may get sick or need a place to stay. Figure that's probably worth mentioning.
That was in my last report to you a couple of weeks ago.
And I think I saw that somewhere. I think Angela sent an email out. So we really appreciate Fate's call.
Well, it's to the community college as well.
Yeah, there's two separate MOUs, one with the community college and then another one with Gates. So they're working hand in hand with.
That's really great. Any further discussion items? Hearing none, future agenda items. Any future agenda items? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session. That motion. Senator Roy makes a motion to proceed to executive session, seconded by Commissioner Ames. All those in favor?
Could we have in the motion, could we have under Title I, MRSA, Section 4056.
Make that motion pursuant to MSR.
Everyone must,
MSR, Title I MSRA, Section 4056, subsection A.
And Mr. Chair, usually it's included who's gonna be here, and I just want to let you know where I requested it. Sergeant Riley Bryant and then Sergeant Delvin Mason, who happens to be the president.
okay. Great.
And Larry, obviously. Right. Definitely not Dave, though.
No.
No Daves.
He's on the blacklist.
Just to clarify, we won't be making any decisions following the executive session.
Are any decisions being requested at this time? Potentially, yes or no?
Yeah, but it's a minor, it's not a. It only deals with a particular individual personnel issue. So it's not a.
So if it's a personnel issue, it can't be recorded anyways.
Well, the end result.
We're going to be holding a vote
The end
publicly afterwards, possibly, within.
Our hope would be that we have an official stand from the county commissioner, so vote would be after the brief executive session for clarification purposes on personnel issues.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion on the executive? All those in favor? Those opposed? Motion passes. We are now entering the executive session. We need a key right now.
Thank you, public.
Bye,
Thank you, everyone.
bye, public. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Ms. Cody, thank you for organizing this.
No problem. I just gotta try to kick people out.
That you wear on a daily basis.
I know what. I'm cold. You?
Anyone need a key right?
Put your camera back in.
I did. Got turn it on.
Oh, that helps you.
Yeah. All right. So there's that. 1 second. We got 3 people waiting in the queue.
Well, that's what a virus will do for you when you're bored crazy, you know?
Well, that's like a laptop. That's interesting.
Then Randy Gridwood.
We should come to my school district board meeting, our agenda does not come out till Monday for a Thursday meeting, and change that multiple times. to the day of the meeting.
All right, you're back live.
All right.
I'd like to make a motion.
Chair recognizes Commissioner Krista.
I make a motion that the board confirm that Sergeant Bryant should be eligible to retire with family plan with our best wishes for the future, with our respect and our deep gratitude for his many years of service.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Not, call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed?
I am opposed. I respectfully encourage Officer Bryant to enjoy his retirement, but I have to be opposed on the interpretation of some of these decisions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everybody. Are you entertaining the motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I moved and seconded. Seconded by Kelly. All those in favor of adjournment? All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Dave.
Anytime, but not too soon. Okay, we are done.